Good morning and welcome to Cybersecurity Talks. I'm Mark, the content lead here at Irdeto, and joining me today is Andy, the product manager of anti-cheat and anti-tamper at Denuvo. Denuvo is a cybersecurity company specializing in game protection from piracy and cheating, and was acquired by Irdeto in 2018. Our episode today will take a look at the gaming industry, touching specifically on the PC market and how we approach with our solutions. Andy, so welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and your title as well. What do you get up to?
Thanks for having me. So I'm with Denuvo since the founding, so pretty exact 10 years ago. I went through several positions in Denuvo, so I have a technical background. I'm a software engineer. So I started in more technical positions, and then I decided I would like to change more to business point of view. So I went through project management, customer success management, led the customer success management team, QA team, and then I ended up in product management actually.
All right, I'm glad to hear it. Well, we often talk about games and whatnot, what everyone's playing, or at least for myself, keeping up with the gaming news. But Denuvo is a company built by gamers for gamers. So tell me, what are you playing?
Good question. I would say my all-time favorite game still is Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind.
Okay.
So back in the days, 2002, it was just amazing how big of a game it was and how much content it had. If Bethesda is listening, feel free to make a remake of it. Nowadays, so more recent games, I don't have that much time anymore to spend into gaming, but as I'm more the single-player role-playing kind of guy, I, of course, did not miss out on Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, that has certainly consumed a large amount of my time. Never being a D&D player myself, unfortunately, it was something that caught me off guard. I didn't think that dice rolls and AC checks or DC checks or whatever would be much of a determining factor in my enjoyment of the game. But I think much like you've mentioned, Elder Scrolls, the expansiveness and just the sheer volume of content within games is quite a fascinating thing. It's come a long way.
And I think Elder Scrolls even had an impact on my career later on, because I started, after I played through the game a few times, I started using this construction kit that was included that you could use to create your own stuff. And I was playing around with that, and that somehow I would assume that it brought or improved the love to the gaming industry to see how this stuff works. And I'm happy that I'm working in this industry nowadays.
I think it's quite a fascinating thing, to be honest, these construction kits, so to speak. The creativity, let's say, that developers are allowing the gamers to experience. I mean, that's how some of the more modern MOBAs were brought on. I mean, take Warcraft 3, for example, all those years ago, and somebody developing a tower defense game and then later turned into, Defense of the Ancients and so on. So do you have a preferred package of games? You mentioned that you like your single player and your role play. I know for myself, I prefer to pay my money up front. I like the experience of at least maybe not owning it, so to speak, because these days do we really own anything? But certainly the illusion of it being mine and not having to worry about, the early access or the bits and pieces missing. What do you prefer?
It's pretty similar. So I also prefer premium games, so pay up front for a finished game. From time to time, if I think an early access game is already at a stage where it makes sense to purchase it and it's hyped, then I go for it as well, like Factorio back in the days. Free to play, I think there have been a few games I had a look at, but in the end I simply don't have the time. So either you spend a lot of time or money on the game, and if I spend money on a game, I usually do it for premium games.
Yeah, I find personally there's a certain level of, let's say, return on investment. I mean, I don't know if I should be ashamed to admit that it's been 250 hours of Baldur's Gate so far.
Okay.
and steadily climbing as each iteration goes. But certainly keeping my ear to the ground about a number of other games that have recently hit the market, the free-to-play versions. I mean, League of Legends has been around for over a decade. There's the StarCraft franchise. But then, most recently the finals. And I recently enjoyed kicking around on that one. But I often wonder about the monetization models and how games are doing it. There's this thing in the industry at the moment where people, or at least the gamers, are back and forth about whether or not they prefer the complete package. Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, Hogwarts Legacy. You pay, that is what you get. And from your experience, working in industry for long, what do you feel is the most common or the most sought after game type?
Yeah, it's a big term currently in the industry, games as a service. So having a long tail sales or income on a certain game, it's getting more important, and especially on the mobile market, it's gaining traction. On PC, I'm very happy that last year with Elden Ring, this year with Baldur's Gate, Hogwarts Legacy, you mentioned them, Starfield, that these companies showed that even with this legacy model with premium games, they can still be huge, and you can still have a long tail revenue stream by utilizing stuff like DLCs. One example, The Witcher, which had very nice big DLCs, and using this, you can even from one game have recurring revenue.
Yeah, I know certainly as a fan of some of the ones that you've mentioned, have been hoping, let's say, that developers will lean hard into the DLC, but due to all kinds of reasons, many of us are left disappointed. Yeah, no, fair enough. Do you find that the games as a service thing, I mean, you mentioned mobile. I know, for example, there's the Netflix games on Netflix. I don't know how big that is. There's also Apple Arcade, but these are very much tailored to, and this is an assumption, small devices. At least Apple Arcade. Being a console player myself on PlayStation 5, I know that PSN has a number of games to its belt. I am assuming Game Pass is much the same, maybe if not better. Do you find that then the subscription models for games to be quite the allure, let's say?
Yes, in general, I think with the subscription model, I don't have a subscription. The thing is, I just don't have the time anymore to play multiple games. There are already a lot of games that I would love to play, but I don't have that time for it. Yeah, so for me, it's not that important. But maybe at some point, if something like cloud gaming is gaining traction, and it's easy to just start a game, have a look, and then either drop it or move to the next one, I might reconsider something like a subscription service there. But yeah, I always prefer premium.
So then let's talk cheating in games then. I don't want to call it controversial, but for example, I know many people, myself included, have cheated in games. You've played that up, down, left, right to was it Kanaki Code or something like that, or flying cars in GTA. The early games, San Andreas or anything of the offline single player versions. Nothing in my mind is better than trying to fly your car through San Andreas, and yet. We see it all the time. Warzone, for example, has an overrun community of cheaters, or League of Legends has, at least in the bot games, when you're trying to level up your starting account, you're matched with scripters. I've never come across a scripter in a ranked game, but I know they exist. How big of a problem is cheating in games?
I think it's a big problem. As you mentioned, there are two kinds of cheats. So the first thing is just for yourself. So single-player games, non-competitive. You don't interfere with any other. So if you would like to improve your own game experience, yeah, why not? But as soon as there is a competitive part in the game, you are affecting. If you're cheating, you're affecting the game experience of others. And it seems like for myself, I don't understand why you would need to do that, because I would assume you're losing some of the magic of video games, like the way to get there to be good in a game. But it seems like others are not like me and are looking for being the best for whatever it takes. So yeah, it's actually a big problem there.
Do you find that there's a determining factor of how prevalent cheats are in different kinds of games? So, for example, Fortnite, or like I previously mentioned, Warzone, or maybe PUBG. I'm not sure if that one's free to play though. But free to play games versus premium games. Is there a high rise, maybe more in one than the other?
It's pretty similar, but the thing is, for cheaters, the risk for a cheater on a premium game is higher than for somebody playing a free-to-play game, because you already invested money into this game to be able to play it, and if you get banned, then you spend the money for nothing. For free-to-play, you can simply create a new account, except of course there is a hardware ban issued, and then you have other problems.
Spy on your PC. Well, I mean, I don't know much about developing or hacking for that matter. Do you find that some cheats or cheaters are more widespread or more difficult to catch? I know certainly that when we talk about bots and how they evolve, let's say, that it's a constant cat and mouse. They've made a new breakthrough, and then you've just caught up, or you're slightly ahead. And so talk to me about like the difficulty of catching or identifying cheats.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. So it's an arms race. If there is no, or back in the days where there were no anti-cheat solutions out there, it was easy to cheat. Then the first anti-cheat solutions came up that are in user mode, and that could prevent these early cheats. But then cheat providers found out how to circumvent them, like Punkbuster, for example, very good example from the old days. And then cheat providers were moving to the next level, which is the kernel mode. Mm-hmm. But cheats soon followed. So the most sophisticated and paid cheats nowadays, they are running in kernel mode as well. So this is a higher privileged area in the operating system. And now cheats are trying to bypass anti-cheat systems in the kernel mode. So it's a constant.
Speaking of kernel mode, would you then say that it is then my limited understanding kicking in hard here? If a anti-cheat system is running in user mode and the cheat system is running in kernel mode, does that mean that the anti-cheat system is not capable of detecting or influencing the effectiveness of the cheating system because it doesn't have root access?
Exactly. So you have to go a bit deeper. The high sophisticated user mode cheats, you have to go to kernel mode to detect them. And a user mode anti-cheat system is simply not able to detect anything that a kernel mode cheat is doing, because user mode doesn't even have the necessary privilege to see what's going on down there.
All right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I know for myself, when installing some of the games years ago, I'd always wondered to myself, why does the game need access? Why do I need to approve the access? This makes more sense to me now. So thank you for telling me that.
You're welcome.
Goodness. So looking at Denuvo's approach to solving these sorts of things, can you tell me a little bit about how we tailor our solution to each model or game type?
The good thing is with our solution, so model and game type, the thing is, depending on what's your business model for your game, you need to decide on what could be the attack vectors for your game. If it's a free-to-play game, it's a competitive free-to-play game, it's probably some kind of cheating, and then you would need, nowadays, unfortunately, an anti-cheat solution. If it's a premium game, premium single-player game maybe, you would more look at piracy. Is piracy. Every premium game will be available for piracy on day 0 if it's not protected. So that would be the use case there. It always depends on what's your monetization model for the game. What's your business
So it works mostly on the monetization model for the game on the developer side. So it doesn't have much to do, let's say, for whether the game is an RTS or an FPS or mobile. That doesn't factor in?
Exactly. But of course, some genres have a bigger surface for certain attacks, like perfect target, first-person shooter, with aimbots and these things. They are, of course, the classical target for cheating, but also real-time strategy would be a nice target there as well. Role-playing games and especially MMOs, so multiplayer role-playing games, they would be more like a botting topic. So there is more the attack vector would be the botting. So it really depends on which kind of game and what's the business model behind the game.
And so far as my understanding goes, maybe you can expand on this for me, Denuvo is predominantly PC based. Do you operate, well, it's on mobile as well, I get that, but do you operate on console? Is that something in the works?
Yeah, so we have our roots on PC only, but at some point we expanded over the different platforms. Console is a special topic because every console has its own threat vectors, and we have solutions for consoles as well, but they are very specific to the console and to certain games and certain use cases, certain attack vectors that are out there. The other thing is consoles, especially Xbox and PlayStation. They are the attack surface is rather limited as they are closed.
Okay, all right, that's good to know. And so far as operating systems are for personal computers, is that limited to Windows or is it also Linux and Mac OS?
Majority of gaming is happening on Windows, so I
Sadly.
think if you look at the if you look at the Steam charts, you see that I don't have the exact numbers in mind, but it's just a minority on other systems. But our solutions are, since Valve released their Steam Deck early last year, I think, which is running on Linux with an emulation layer in between. These handheld devices for PC gaming got very popular, and our solutions also work on these devices.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'll secretly be holding out that Mac gaming catches up. But, I'll probably die of holding my breath. But
it's an interesting topic. I'm really looking forward to see how this is turning out in future as well.
Yeah. All right. So let's go a little bit further into the solution side. So what does the Denuvo PC process look like for our solutions? If you're approached by a game developer, talk to me. How do you guide them through? What do they need?
Sure. We always try, for every solution we develop, we try to make it as easy as possible for our customers to integrate. Reason is our customers are gaming studios. Their core competence is creating great games. And we don't want to hassle them with integrating any security code into the source code. So we try to do as much as possible in-house and take that off the shoulders of the game studio. So how it works is, if you decide to go for one of our solutions, the approach is always similar, or basically the same actually. We need a running game build, because we need to play the game. And then we first identify parts of the game that are non-performance critical, like, for example, the startup, or while loading a game or something like this. And a game usually has a huge amount of code, so hundreds of thousands of different functions are in there. We are selecting a minor subset of these functions that we then utilize to check for whatever the actual product then is, and whatever we want to validate and secure. And then we have our own QA department. with lots of machines. I think currently we're talking about 50 to 60 different hardware configurations that we are having in-house and where we are testing every game on. Also very exotic ones.
Always a bit of fun.
And then we're doing lots of testing, and at some point we then provide our customers with a very simple command line based encryption tool that they integrate into the build pipeline. So this is the only thing a customer would need to do, is integrating this command line tool into the build pipeline, which is a matter of hours, and then every build is protected.
It's quite fascinating. All right. And the build that works the same way for anti-tamper as anti-cheat, or is there a difference?
The process on our side and how to integrate it on the customer side is the same.
Okay. All right. And, having a look at the industry and, I don't want to call it competitors because it's not really about that, but some publishers use their own anti-cheat software. So the ones that I have in mind are Ricochet or Vanguard or Easy Anti-Cheat. Do they do anything differently to either your setup, the functionality, or the integration?
Great question. I'm not too familiar with the integration of most of them because they are in-house developed. Most of them are in-house developed solutions. In general, they are, so the basic fundament is the same. They are using a kernel mode driver as well, like we do as well. It's just it's a requirement nowadays because cheating is happening on the kernel mode's level, so you have to be on a kernel mode level as well to detect them. From what they do differently, everyone has their own ways how they work. Some are aiming for preventing cheats in the first place. Others are going for monitoring and then enforcing on the server side, or behavioral anti-cheat systems. There are many different solutions out there. What we are doing is we are doing this monitoring approach. So we are monitoring the client side, and then on the server side filter out malicious interactions.
Okay. And so far as the action is concerned, it would be my understanding then, if you were to spot a cheater, that's not something that you engage with. That's for the client. They can decide if they're going to ban or instance the game, or I don't know what else.
Yeah. Exactly, that's the way how it works. So we just provide the information if somebody is a cheater and why. This is very important. Why somebody is a cheater, or why we consider somebody as a cheater. Mm-hmm. So we provide all this data. We are very transparent in that. And then we leave it up to our customers to decide on how they want to react. Ban instantly, make a ban wave every week, put them all together on Cheater Island or whatever.
Okay. Oh. All right. So let's move on to piracy for a second. Anti-Piracy by Denuvo. My understanding is that the critical window is the sales window, the initial sales of a piece. I assume that during the integration stages, you put that in before it goes live, and then does it need to be removed, or is there like a tail off window? Like how does it work? My understanding is that it doesn't have to be on forever, but I'm not really that clued up on it.
Yeah, you're right. So first of all, when should somebody get started with integrating an anti-piracy solution? We suggest as early as possible in the development stage. Of course, we need a playable build, so the game needs to be there. But the sooner you integrate, the earlier you are already protected in the development phase. So our solution does not only prevent piracy once the game is released, but also protects you in case something leaks, which we unfortunately have seen recently happening quite often. Yeah. In this case, I mean, the build is out, yes, but at least it's not playable and you cannot start it up. So we suggest to start as early as possible, then have the protection in until release. Then the game is releasing. Then we are doing the most important work for this solution. And as you already said, for premium games, the most important time frame is the release window, because the game is sold for the highest price, and most of the units are sold at this time. So our suggestion and also our how we are structuring our contracts is it's always time limited. So after a certain time frame, you're supposed to remove the protection from the games.
That's good to know. Yeah. And hackers, how do they get into premium content? Are they reverse engineering? Are they, you mentioned something earlier about attack vectors. Is that something similar as well in piracy?
Yes, so it's basically reverse engineering. The modern gaming is done over platforms, so it's not like, or there are still CDs out there that you can buy with the games. Usually there is not even the game on the CD, it's just a Steam client or something. But so most of the gaming is happening on platforms nowadays, like Steam and the Epic Store. And these platforms have a DRM system, so they need somehow to validate if a person is allowed to start a game or not. And these checks are then by the attackers. They are looking at the code of the binary, finding the checks where this is happening, and then simply removing that. And this is exactly where our solution is hooking in. We are enhancing the security of these checks and making sure that it's not possible to remove these checks and revalidate the original platform entitlement.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier, much like with cheats, it's a bit of an arms race, making it more bulletproof, and hackers in a various number of ways getting in. Once they're in a system, how far can they go?
So for PC games, it depends what you want to reach. So there are tools that you can use to bypass the standard protection on various platforms. But then you can play the game already without paying for it. But there are also other enhanced tools that give you additional features that would not be available in the usual pirate copy. So platform features like achievements, even multiplayer modes. They can be re-enabled in piracy protected versions, so you can really go that deep and have the full paid player experience with a pirated copy.
It's pretty fascinating. I wasn't aware that I thought it was very much like cut and dry. You keep it within its thing. Anyway. Something that's been on my mind is, studios, they might have in-house, they might not. Is there a time when a studio should ask themselves, do I need a third party?
I think the question is again the business model. So there are games, or there are two possible ways to how the development process of game could look like. Either you first define the business model your game should have, and then define the game or design the game around the business model, or you have an idea for a game, you develop the game, and then after the game is at a mature stage already, you think about how the business model could look around that. And whenever the business model is set, you can think about what are the attack scenarios in my specific case. And then that's the time then where you should think about maybe I can make it harder in the first place already to attack my game, or I directly get in touch with security providers.
So talk to me. To close out, what are you looking forward to most this year in gaming or in cybersecurity?
Good question. I would say what I initially talked about already as well when we started. I liked the last 2 years with Cyberpunk, with Hogwarts Legacy, with especially Baldur's Gate, and all these premium single player games that were super successful. I'm interested to see if the industry changes a bit more, because they were moving away from these kind of games, and I'm interested to see if the success of these games changes this again back to creating more of these big scale single player games.
Yeah, I think I'd join you on that one for sure. I guess only time will tell. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I much appreciate it, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.